Summary of the Wars by Timothy Findley. In the wars, a young Canadian soldier named Robert Ross fights in the First World War. Although the main plot takes place between the years 1915 and 1922, the story occasionally shifts to interviews with Juliette D'Orsay and Marion Turner, who knew Robert during the war. These interviews take place during the present-day period of the novel, which is almost 60 years after World War I. Furthermore, Findley includes the reader in the story by making them a character who looks through Robert's family photos and other old papers in the present day. Robert comes from a wealthy family and is shy, smart, and sporty. In April 1915, when Robert is 18 years old, his beloved older sister Rowena dies when she falls from her powered wheelchair. Robert has always seen himself as his sister's guardian because she has a disability. He blames himself for the accident. Barbara Ross, Robert's mother, kills Rowena's beloved pet rabbits. Robert joins the Canadian Army to get away from the guilt and pain of his sister's death. During military training, he meets Captain Taffler, a brave soldier he hopes can teach him how to fight bravely and kill without fear. Robert is persuaded by the other soldiers to visit a nearby brothel, where he has an embarrassing experience with a prostitute named Ella and is shocked to see Taffler having sex with another man. After training, Robert is promoted to second lieutenant in December 1915. He turns 19 shortly before boarding the SS Massonaby for England. As they travel, Robert becomes friends with a young soldier named Harris and takes over Harris's job of watching over the horses when Harris gets pneumonia. Unfortunately, Robert has to shoot one of the horses when it breaks its leg in a storm. This traumatizes him and is the start of his slow loss of innocence at war. When Robert falls and hurts his knees during the same storm, he and Harris are taken to the hospital together when they get to England, which makes them even closer. After Harris's illness gets worse and he is taken to a hospital in London, Robert meets Barbara D'Orsay, who is there with Taffler to see Captain James Villiers, a wounded soldier. As a final act of respect, Harris is cremated after he passes away from pneumonia. With the help of Barbara and Taffler, Robert then spreads his ashes in the River Thames. Robert and his fellow young soldiers are overjoyed about the war and are fixated on the idea of fighting and dying with honor. Everyone loves the letters that Robert sends from overseas, especially Thomas, Mrs. Ross, and Robert's siblings Peggy and Stuart. While traveling from his post in France to Belgium, Robert loses men who are shot by German soldiers or who fall into sinkholes and drown in the mud. He still blames himself for Rowena's death, and he has the same problem as a second lieutenant in charge of others. Robert is smart and observant, and he even uses simple knowledge from his high school chemistry class to save his men from a chlorine gas attack. The disastrous Battle of St. Eloi happens in Belgium, and Robert's dugout is bombed. These soldiers, Poole, Levitt, Rodwell, Bates, Devlin, Benicassel, and Roots, have been in trench fighting and seen firsthand how horrible modern war is. Attacks with mustard gas, flamethrowers, and long-range explosives are common, and many men die horribly painful deaths. Surviving soldiers often have serious injuries or shell shock from the fighting. Captain Leather, the commander of the men's division, doesn't do anything about the war. Levitt, a junior officer who reads Clausewitz on war all the time, criticizes Leather's attitude as passive, which is a trait that modern warfare supports. When Robert and his fellow soldiers are fighting for their lives in Europe, their families back home and Western society as a whole are also trying to figure out how to deal with the terrible violence of World War I while still holding on to their old beliefs in faith, custom, and morality. Contemporary interviews with Juliette D'Orsay and Marion Turner, who talk about how the war changed society, shed light on these big changes. Between January and June 1916, while Robert is at war, Mrs. Ross quickly becomes an alcoholic and acts in more and more strange ways because she feels guilty and stressed about having a son in war who is risking his life abroad. Their problems are similar, even though they are not physically or emotionally close. This shows that the war affects both troops and civilians in many ways. Following the Battle of St. Eloi, Robert takes a break at St. Albans Hospital for recovering, which is privately owned by Barbara D'Orsey's family. His first meeting with Juliet, Barbara's younger sister, makes her fall in love with him right away. Her jealousy grows when Barbara and Robert start seeing each other, and her shocked reaction when she accidentally sees them having violent sex. While Taffler is healing at St. Albans after losing both arms in the war, Juliet saves his life by rubbing his wounds on a wall to make them bleed. After serving at St. Albans, Robert is sent back to France in June 1916 and then goes to Belgium. Four other troops rape him on the way there, taking away the last bit of his innocence that the war has been slowly destroying. In Belgium, he joins a convoy carrying supplies and sees the worst fighting yet, as German bombs and shells completely destroy Allied men in the trenches. Robert asks Captain Leather to let him save their company's horses and mules from the growing fire on the battlefield because he is losing faith in the war and how it treats both human and animal lives. Robert and Devlin don't follow directions and let the animals go when Leather complains. Leather shoots Devlin and Robert responds by killing Leather. Unfortunately, this event causes Robert to leave the army and wander alone for days. During this time, he supposedly frees a train full of horses and kills Private Cass, an unarmed soldier, who tries to stop him from going through a forest. This action makes Major Mickle, Cassels' boss, go after Robert and tells his men to set fire to the empty barn where Robert and the horses are hiding to smoke him out. Robert is stuck inside the burning barn because he can't open the doors in time. Almost all of the animals die in the fire, and he is badly deformed when he gets out. Nursing assistant Marion Turner helps Robert in a French hospital, but he turns down her offer to help him kill himself. As a result of being tried for his war crimes while he is away, he is sent to St. Albans in the fall of 1916 and stays there with Juliet for the rest of his bedridden life. Robert's family and fellow soldiers don't support him because they think he is a traitor. When he died in 1922 at the age of 25, his father is the only member of his family who is able to witness his burial.
About the author. Timothy Findley spent his childhood in the prosperous Rosedale neighborhood of Toronto, Ontario, Canada. People like Robert Ross and Clifford Purchase also went to St. Andrew's College before joining the war during the wars. Findley was a famous actor as a young adult before he turned to writing. In the 1950s, he was in the original cast of the Stratford Event, an internationally famous Shakespeare event in Ontario. He has also been on a number of popular Canadian TV shows. In 1962, Findley met the writer Bill Whitehead, who would go on to become his partner in life and a creative partner. A friend of Findley's named Ruth Gordon, who was a scriptwriter and playwright, told him he should try writing. In the 1960s, Findley quit acting to focus on writing full-time. His first two books were turned down by Canadian publishers, but his third book, The Wars, won the Governor-General's Award and was praised by many critics. Findley wrote 7 more books after that, as well as a number of short story collections, plays, and autobiographies. He won the Trillium Book Award and many other literary awards. He was also made an Officer of the Order of Canada and added to Canada's Walk of Fame. He died at age 71.
Hope we summarized it fully and you liked it. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so that we are motivated to create more videos.